lecture, we are going to see the two main organizational metaphors that help us in understanding the level of formalization and the characteristics of an organization. These two metaphors are organization as a mechanic system and organization as an organic system. These two metaphors can be considered as two opposite poles of a continuum representing different levels of formalization of behaviors and activities inside the company. Formalization is the way management can reduce subjectivity and discretional behaviors of the members of the organization, implementing standardization through the development of rules and norms, or by describing precisely the activities to perform. When we describe the organization as a mechanic system, we see the organization as a machine, composed by many different parts and elements, mechanisms and gears, each one performing a specific activity. In this kind of organization, formalization, specialization and diversification of tasks are at their highest level. Also, the interaction between the different parts is predetermined. The machine can achieve its goals only if all the parts are doing in a proper and correct way all the functions for which they are built, and if they interact exactly as predetermined. If we translate the metaphor into the organizational elements, we can easily understand how the gears are the people of our organization. As the gears, the individuals of the organizational machine must perform functions and activities that are precisely and rigidly programmed. Roles and functions are highly specialized. Not only the people work in an extremely formalized way, but they are also easily interchangeable at every time with any other individual that is adequately trained. Typically, mechanistic organizations show a high level of centralization and a strong hierarchical vertical structure. To make this organizational machine working properly, standardization of processes and direct supervision are the main useful coordination mechanisms. An example of a mechanistic organization could be a call center of a telecommunication company, where people carry out activities following specific rules and procedures to manage the different requests of the calling customers. These kind of organizations are generally aimed at achieving predictable goals in very stable environments. When instead we describe the organization as an organic system, we describe a completely different and opposite set of characteristics with a completely different level of formalization. This second metaphor, in fact, sees the organization as a living system, in which we can still have different parts that perform different and specialized activities, but these parts contribute to the overall goal of the system with individual functions that are constantly redefined as they interact with the other parts. The organic system is an open one, and it pursues its objectives in different ways, interacting with the external environment and adapting to specific situations. Therefore, in the organic organization, the horizontal relationships and flows of information between peers play a fundamental role, even more than vertical and hierarchical relationships. An organic system is based on the concepts of survival and growth. If a company operates in a turbulent and uncertain environment, it cannot operate in a predetermined and fixed way, but it should be able to modify itself through mutual adjustment and standardization of competencies and partially of standardization of outputs. This implies that formalization of activities should be low. Finally, in organic organizations, human resources and individuals are not perfectly interchangeable because their work is not only related to the specific functions or activities that they have to perform, but mainly to the network of relationships, their tacit knowledge linked to their expertise and experience, and to the overall organic system in which every part is contributing, going beyond the accomplishment of the specific task. Typically, roles are broad and people have a certain level of autonomy in the decision-making process. This implies that, as it happens in a living body, where we cannot simply fix a part by substitution or maintenance activities, but we need to transplant a new organ, in an organic organization, the substitution of a part is much more complex because we need to take into consideration carefully all the relationships, knowledge and connections that that specific resource has. On the other hand, in an organic system, when a part does not work properly, the organization can still survive thanks to the support of all the other parts. Also in this case, simplifying the reality, a typical example of this kind of organization could be a relatively young tech startup where we have few individuals that are linked by interconnected relationships, both internal and with the surrounding environment, and where substituting a person could be a not very easy thing to do due to her peculiar knowledge or experience on a specific topic or the set of relationships she holds in the organization. In general, organic organizations are very effective when there is a high need of flexibility and for providing innovation and adaptiveness to the customer needs. Of course, organic and mechanic systems are ideal types of organizations. They don't exist in such defined opposite forms in reality. Each organization could be more or less oriented toward one form, or it can have some parts that work more in a mechanic form and some others that work instead more in an organic form. For example, the big manufacturing companies typically show production departments that are more mechanic, with a high standardization of activities and highly formalized tasks, and the R&D department that has to develop new products and technologies that are more organic, with less formalized jobs and low standardization of activities.